read a book a couple of years ago that really changed my life and changed the way that I look at almost everything. It's a book that I talk about probably once a week at least, if not every other week, and will likely continue to talk about on this channel because of how fundamental a perspective shift it was for me and how much it's helped me create cohesion in the way that I look at things and my understanding of why the world and why people work the way that they do. And the book was Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And in the book, he talks about the history of Homo sapiens as a species, from early beginnings through the invention of language, agriculture, societies, etc. And while there were some really cool things in there around the invention of languages and nations and all that kind of stuff, I think the thing that really fundamentally hit home for me was the fact that we are animals. Human beings are animals. And it was a thing that I knew, but hadn't ever really had it that clearly laid out. Like, nobody in my past had sat me down and been like, okay, listen, underneath everything, your personality, your experiences, where you went to college, your friends, whatever, underneath all of that, you are an animal. And I think it's a really profound realization when you understand and grasp the immensity of that idea. Because I think that so much of what creates problems, what creates chaos, what creates disconnection is this idea that we are something more than an animal. And in a way we are. We have the ability to create story and consciously create community. We can create things. We are conscious creators. That's cool. And fundamentally, we're animals, which means that we evolved under a very particular set of environmental circumstances to operate in a particular way. Our bodies are the manifestation of that very long process and series of changes. And this goes for everything physically. How we eat, how we sleep, how we interact, our emotions, how we play, how we trust each other. All of these things are influenced by the fact that we are animals, physically bodied animals. And part of what I took from that was that we're then so much more similar than we think that we are. Because it can be easy as a person to forget that, to get caught up in this idea of who we think we are, our identity, our stories, our experiences, our perspectives, what have you. And you look at somebody else and you say, wow, they're so different. Look at culturally what they believe. Look at the color of their skin. Look at how they prioritize rest. Look at what they believe to be true about the world and about life. And we can look at that and feel like we're so different, when I think fundamentally we're very much so the same. Because although we might look different, although our perspectives might be different, fundamentally we are animals. And this has been one of the most freeing realizations for me, because what it helped me to understand was that everyone is yearning for, looking for, working for, struggling for, suffering for the same exact things that I am. Connection, belonging, fulfillment, joy, ease, peace, community, purpose, identity. Everyone's looking for the exact same thing. And some people are born into circumstances, myself included, that allow for easier access to those things, to feeling connected, to feeling purposeful, to feeling joyful, being able to rest, etc. And other people are not. I think that's one of the great inequities, unfair things, is that based on where you were born, in your upbringing, you're given a set of tools and a set of perspectives that may or may not be useful in the creation of those things that you're yearning for, the connection, the joy, the peace, the everything else. So fundamentally, people are looking for the same thing, but people are given different tools. Some people have different tools. Some people have better tools. Some people do not have great tools. If you're born in an incredibly abusive household, it will be more difficult to create those things because there's an inherent disadvantage in your upbringing. Likewise, if you're born into wealth and a healthy family dynamic and don't experience abuse, it will likely be easier for you to get those things. Not all the time, not always the case, but in general, typically that's what happens. And that realization has been really profound and helpful for me because it enables me to be more compassionate with every person that I come across. Because I fundamentally believe that everyone is doing the best that they can with the tools that they have. Again, everyone's looking for those same things. Some people were given different tools. Some people were given better tools. And I think this even applies to, this applies to everybody. And even and especially applies to people who might be more aggressive, might be cruel, might be hard to be around. It can be difficult to remember that when we have an experience or run into somebody that's difficult or aggressive or cruel or hard to be around. But I think there's actually a lot of compassion in the understanding that just like you, that person wants the exact same things that you do. They want to experience connection. They want to experience joy. They want to experience fulfillment. They want to feel safe. They want to feel at peace. And my belief is that if people understood how to create that, they would be doing it. Nobody that understands how to create connection and joy and peace is willfully choosing to ignore that and doing something else most of the time. Most often, people don't understand, they're not equipped, they don't have the tools to be able to create those things for themselves. And when you understand that, when you start to understand that those people who are your brothers and sisters just simply don't have the tools to create the exact same thing that you do, it becomes less about judgment, and it becomes less about your ideas about who they are and what they should do and shouldn't do. And it becomes more about compassion. And it becomes more about, how do I support this person? How do I help this person? How do I love this person? How do I get out of my own sense of ego about who they should be or who they shouldn't be? And how do I simply be loving towards this person? Because the counterintuitive thing is that criticism and finger pointing and being right, being judgmental, is not something that leads to change. This is what a lot of people don't understand. It doesn't lead to change. You telling somebody and criticizing somebody for how they're showing up or what they're doing only creates defensiveness in that person. Think about the last time that somebody criticized you or gave you a piece of feedback that you didn't ask for. Likely, I'm going to guess, the experience, the reaction that you had was not, oh my gosh, thank you. Wow, you're so right. I'm going to change everything. It was, fuck you. Like, who do you think you are? Like, what is this? So there's a defensiveness. There's a defensiveness that gets created. And we like to feel right. We like to feel like we know exactly what this person should do. But if we're really truly committed to them having a better experience, if we're really truly committed to them becoming the best version of themselves, stepping outside of whatever self-destructive behavior they've picked up as a coping mechanism for not being able to create the connection and the peace and everything that they're yearning for, if we're truly committed to them getting there, we have to drop the judgment. You have to learn how to love the person underneath, however their behavior or identity or choices is manifesting. And for me, it's become a lot easier to do that when I remember that really we're all just animals. We're all trying to do the same thing, create the same thing, be the same thing. I think the last thing I'll say on it is, not only is it a great act of service for others to love them unconditionally in spite of however they show up or their choices, but it's also an act of liberation for yourself. Because then our emotional state, our internal state, is no longer tied to trying to control anybody else's behavior or change them or have them be different. We actually just get to accept the totality of who this person is in this moment and support them if they desire, if they want it, in creating something else. Let me know your thoughts. If that resonated, what you took from it, what's helped you become less judgmental, non-judgmental, more compassionate. And see you next time.